morning, everyone. Great to be here. I think this is my 12th WHD, so I'm happy to be here again. Feels like now it's more like a mecca coming into this place. It's a lot of fun. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about cloud and data protection in particular to give you a view of what's happening in this market. It's a very interesting market because it's a highly fragmented market, but if you put together all the data protection services, it becomes one of the top 3 services being sold in the world. But let's start about cloud first. Some trends that have changed the world already, right? So first, massive spending in cloud, right? $200 billion this year alone. The speed at which you have access to data that is on the internet or in the cloud has massively increased. I know in my case, I get really nervous when I'm not connected. My phone is not with me right now and I'm shaking inside. I took a flight from Tokyo to Singapore the other day on Singapore Airlines, and I think it was the first time I wasn't connected on the plane in a very long time, especially during the day. It felt very, very odd. Mobile devices, 7 billion mobile subscription. 10 countries have 100% broadband penetration. Essentially, we're getting to a point in the world where people are connected all the time. Social media has become critical to the way we communicate and do business. I spend a ton of time on social media. I have tons of different messaging apps. It is the way you communicate today. It is the way I communicate with media, partners, friends, stay in touch. It's surprising, actually, how some people have not understood yet that if you're not connected via social, you're not able to take full advantage of how you can grow your business. Cloud is great, cloud is dead. It's really all about the architecture. What cloud did is it brought us all together as if we were in one location. So first you have the network effect. Now, wherever you are, whatever device you have, you're connected with everybody. It has to do with the fact that we have a standard that we all write to that is developed a bit organically that makes it easy to integrate new services, new apps. I have over 125 apps on my Windows phone. I actually use all of them. The Apple TV is now a collection of apps. I will actually drop cable in the next few months. So for the operators in the room, I apologize, but it's the truth. And then, most importantly, the cloud allows you to scale out and scale out massively at a cost that is very low and incremental that can be aligned with business models. This new architecture is what is enabling the massive growth that we're seeing today. So what's the result of this? So first, everyone has unlimited access to vast computing resources, right? You're not limited anymore by what's sitting on your desk or under your desk or in your own data center. You're able to access resources that you were never able to access before, and they were able to access it at a very, very reasonable cost. You're on 24/7, right? It never turns off. You're able to work and play all the time anywhere you are. As a matter of fact, I don't know about you, but that's a bit of a problem for me because there are some times that, especially when I travel, I work or go out until I pass out because I lose track of time and there's no disconnection. Makes it interesting to manage your time. And what this is doing is it's changing the way people act. One of the things I've been thinking about a little bit is how behavior has changed this current generation because of the connectivity we have in the social the social media environment we're in today. So there's an example of a felon here, a criminal, who's now a model and is getting paid to be a model because he happens to be a good-looking criminal and was very popular on the social network. There are other examples. I tend to be a guy, well, let me ask, how many people, when you get a piece of technology, a TV, other piece of technology, read all the instructions before you install it? None of you. Good. I do, or did. Turns out now what people do is they either don't read the instructions like before, or they just go on YouTube and say, how do I do this? And I've found that more and more, if I can't figure out how to use some piece of equipment, it's just easier for me to go on YouTube. I actually found out that it's more than just equipment. Turns out if you want to figure out how to smoke weed appropriately, there's YouTube videos on that as well. So just about anything you want to learn now, you can do it because you're connected, and you can do it very, very easily. What that's done is that's brought capabilities to each individual that they did not have access to, which means that when you're working and thinking about how you're serving your customers, you have to understand they're essentially much more knowledgeable and much more intelligent than they ever used to be before because they have ubiquitous access to this data. The way we do business has changed, is completely changed. One of the reasons I love coming to this conference is because this is the group of people over the last 15 years that have changed the way the world thinks. I did a study about 3 years ago for this conference when I was at Parallels to figure out what percentage of servers on the internet were represented by the people in this room. And it was over 80%. I mean, the internet or the cloud is actually sitting here. What you see here is some of the examples of companies that have completely changed the business model for cloud. So our friend from Estonia, if you saw him yesterday, he was talking about how government has gone completely digital in his country. He gave the example of Uber, that is a taxi service without taxi. I have not owned a car in 2 years. I take Uber everywhere. It's actually cheaper for me to use Uber on a regular basis because I live in the city than owning a car. Another example is I was looking at instant messaging. This is a way to communicate. This is an interesting market. I was counting when I was coming here to speak how many messaging apps I have on my phone. I'm getting close to 10. I've got 9 of them. And I use all of them. It turns out that different people, different countries have different preferences for how they communicate. Now, because I'm a marketer and also I'm trying to sell something, I use an individual's or company's preferred method of communication, so I end up having all of them. What gets interesting is they all make different sounds, if you've noticed, so I can tell at least what group of people is messaging me based on the sound I hear. I know that text messaging, it's usually just AT&T. That's the one that gets used the less frequently. Now, what is happening with data protection? Now, I'll try not to make this as much of a sales pitch as I can, but this is an area that we're an expert in. First, the world is becoming 100% digital. So we talk about cloud, mobile, and social. You have all your life that's becoming digitized. Every process is becoming digital. The TVs are digital. The way you communicate is digital. The way you order can be digital. Think of what's left that's not digital. I saw a lot of the 3D goggles that were around here today. The way you live is digital. I have friends who are gamers who are all excited about the fact that you'll be able to wear goggles and see your favorite gaming characters actually walking the streets of the location you're in and interacting with the real world. So at some point, the digital world and the real world will be completely integrated and working together. Cars are digital, right? They talk about self-driving cars, and they're becoming more and more real, except for Porsche. They said they'll never do a self-driving car. We'll see. We all have multiple devices. Our devices are all connected, and we expect that information to be on those devices working well together. And we expect to be always on and always connected. I never turn off my phone. I never turn off my PC. I'm always connected. Once I'm in the car, the first thing I do is connect my phone to the car when I'm renting a car. Uber, that's the only downside, is I can't control their radio. Data has become as important to businesses as the air we breathe. So if you look here, a person can't survive 3 minutes without air, or 3 days without water, or 3 weeks without food. What happens to a business when they have no data? 40% of businesses do not reopen after a disaster. That's 4 out of 10, 2 out of 5. That's huge. I suspect that over time, businesses will be required to have a data protection plan to be able to function. There will be legislation that puts in place that businesses of certain sizes will have that requirement. It will probably start. It'll probably start with certain verticals and then move beyond those verticals. We already see it for example, the legal industry, because within the legal industry, for example, if they're going to court and they need data, they can't have that data be inaccessible 2 minutes before their court appearance. So this is really, really critical to have data accessible and available no matter what happens to your environment or where you are. So this means that data protection is also going through a massive transformation. Think about it. Before, to have to protect your system, you had to build a fairly complex environment, and you had to run programs that would back up your data, be able to restore it. If you wanted to go as far as disaster recovery, you had to duplicate your environment somewhere. It was a lot of hard work, and you were happy if you didn't lose more than a day's worth of data, and you were back up within a few days. With the cloud and the new cloud architecture, we're now in a mode where you can protect your data. Your customers can protect your data very, very easily. And it's not just the data, really, it's about who you are. So it's your preferences, your settings. We get a lot of questions about, why do I need backup? I got Dropbox, or I got Box. Well, Box and Dropbox just back up your files, right? They don't back up your settings. They don't back up your preference. They have different levels of permissions and securities. Takes forever to upload files, forever to download files. I would call it a poor man's version of backup. And I use Dropbox, I use OneDrive, but I also back up my data. They serve very, very different purposes. The good news now is you've got enterprise class, world-class data protection that can be available to everybody at a very, very reasonable cost. So what this means is that at this point, you want to protect all data. Every business should have complete data protection, right? But the thing is about data protection is that it's got to be easy, complete, and affordable. Now, you might ask, why is it that it has to be easy, complete, and affordable? Unfortunately, what I've learned when I entered this space is that if I go to any customer and say, do you need to make sure your data is backed up? The answer 100% of the time is yes, I do, absolutely. Then the second question is, do you back up your data? And there, about half the people go, well, I don't. And I go, well, why don't you? You just told me you need to back up your data. They go, well, I'm really busy. I've got other projects. It's not a problem today. I don't think it'll be a problem tomorrow, so I'll get to it tomorrow. And then they don't get to it tomorrow, and then at some point they have a disaster, and that's where they realize that they should have protected their data. So what this means is that for us to be able to sell data protection and make it pervasive in the industry, it has to be very easy to set up, to buy, to get going. A lot of our focus is to just make it such that that IT person or that business owner, when they look at the offer, that they look at their ability to protect their data, that they can just say, yes, make it happen, I'll send you a check, couple of steps, and it's done. And then they feel better, they sleep at night, and they then lose track of some of these other projects that they believe are mission critical. And then when they do need to recover, they're happy that did it, and then you have a customer for life. So it has to be really easy. It's got to be complete. We're a very fragmented market. Nobody in the market, including Acronis, has more than 10% share of the market. What this means is when I've talked to most of you here, you either don't have a solution, you have a partial solution, or you have multiple solutions that all work in a different way, which is highly inefficient and ineffective. This is a market that is ripe for consolidation, and having a solution that really is complete, whether it's across operating systems, across devices, across workloads, across different levels of data protection. Whether you want to be able to lose no more than a day and recover within a day, or lose no more than minutes and recover within minutes. And then it has to be affordable. The way you make it a no-brainer decision is you make it affordable. I'll give you an example. We sell through channel, 100% through channel. I've dropped my price significantly over the last year, over 50%. And I suspect that it'll keep going. Now, part of it, a big chunk of the price drop is because of storage. Now, in cases where we have partners who are using their own storage, which is about 80% of the time, not a big deal. They're the ones who are handling that. But this is a market where we want to make it easier and easier. I spend a lot of time talking to each of you, asking you, what is that magic number where the business just says, yes, I'll do it? We all want to get our fair share. We all have to make money, obviously. But we want to make sure that a price is not a barrier. So let me talk a little bit about what Acronis is doing. And I'm going to leave time for questions. It can either be about Acronis, about this market, about what I drank last night. I'm happy to answer any question. What we've done is we've looked at this market. When we started over 10 years ago, it was just about data safety, protecting data from the universe. So you kept multiple copies. Unfortunately, now you have to worry about security and privacy, right? Protecting data from bad actors in a connected world. I'll talk at the night talk a bit of an experience that happened to me in the last couple of weeks, and about privacy, making sure that essentially the doors to your house are locked and people can't just walk in. So to do this, you got to have really strong security. Make sure you're using the protocols that are the most current and the most secure. You've got to make sure that your destinations are secure, both physically and virtually. And then you have to make sure that where you're transporting data, how you're compressing it, how you're taking care of deduplication, it's done securely as well. Because it turns out that there are a lot of people who are really smart about getting around rules and finding new ways to enter that house, to get through a window, underground, through the roof. And so whatever measures are put in place to be secure, there's always somebody or some people thinking about how to get around them. You need to make sure that your data is private, making sure that you have the minimal amount of information. So for example, at Acronis, Our solution's in 3 components. There's an agent that goes on the device that basically packages up the backup, figures out what needs to be incrementally backed up with changes, so on and so forth. There's a management portal that takes care of registering the devices, associating a backup plan. That's where you go to recover. That's really how you manage the backup. And then there's storage. We, in most cases, actually manage the management portal. There, we have minimal identifying data. So minimal that we meet the standards that the EU have for consumer privacy and others. It's literally a name of device, some information about the storage size of the device, and one contact person or contact email, and that's about it. And we do that on purpose. And then access to the systems, once again, highly restrictive. There's no backdoor. People who can access to the servers are in the handful. We know who they are, where they live. They're certified. We get audited. We make sure that there's complete privacy. Then the second thing, okay. The second thing is you need to make sure that you address the complete needs of their data protection. And that's what we're working on. So not just backup, but really producing a complete portfolio of services that meet the full data protection needs. This means you as a partner here is that if you, and when, it's when, not if, you decide to partner with us, you'll not only get backup today, but you'll have storage capabilities. We're incorporating disaster recovery, the ability to transfer files. Turns out our solution has been used for years just for migration cases, that you encrypt data, you help with migration, archiving, e-discovery and search. Think of the idea that once you have all your data backed up in a single location, or what looks like a virtual single location, it becomes very easy for you to search your data, obviously with the right authority. And then privacy, making sure the data is private. These technologies are coming together very, very quickly. When I was at Microsoft and I started working with many of you here, when you wanted a new feature in the Windows operating system, I got to be the guy who told you, yep, we're going to do it for you. It'll be here in 3 years. That was always fun. Here I get to say, yes, we're going to do it for you, and it'll be here within 3 months. Some of this will take 12 months, but within 18 months, most of this will all be in the market and in production. We're moving at a much, much faster pace. So this opportunity is really massive for you partners. We're growing rapidly. I incubated the service provider channel for Acronis. I added about 300 service providers in production last year. This first quarter, we'll add just as many. We'll add twice as many next quarter, and we'll be in the thousands by the end of the year. This is a program we've built that is really designed for service providers, taking advantage of the new cloud architecture. Massively scaled, multi-tenant, multi-tier, easy for you to sell, easy for customers to use, easy to manage, low support costs, and making sure there's enough money through the value chain. We designed it for you. There's no other company that can say that. They might say it, but it's not true. We've had the experience. Our CEO did a great job of bringing people who've built in with this service. You'll see more coming where people can also, well, actually, you can do this today. You can back up both locally and in the cloud. So the management portal allows you to control how you want to sell backups, whether it's cloud, local, or both. So according to Autotask, this is the #1 potential revenue. I told you it's one of the top 3 services. I've seen, good mic, I've seen studies from Microsoft, Gartner, Forrester, all of them saying that this is one of the top 3 services demanded by IT in the industry right now. So, almost going to close here and then open for some questions. We think of our data protection suite as the ABCs of data protection: archiving, backup, cloud storage, disaster recovery, e-discovery, and files cloud. So when you think of the alphabet from now on, you can think of Acronis and us as being your preferred data protection provider. Keep in mind that we've created an architecture that allows you to run this service in a way that allows you to do it effectively, profitably, and securely, and run with high availability. Today, we have Acronis Backup Cloud v5 that we just announced. We've been demoing it in our booth. You can get a free trial there. One of the models we've built into our program is that we made sure that you could get started with this program very, very easily. What does that mean? It means that we use a pay-as-you-go model. We use a model where the price actually lowers as you gain volume automatically. Also means that every one of your resellers and customers automatically get 30 days free that we don't bill you for. You could choose to bill them instantly and you just get that revenue yourself, or it means you can get started, and it's a full month, 30 days. You can get started where you know that every customer you onboard doesn't have to pay until they've gone past their first full month of usage. Everything we've done is designed to be easier for you to sell and easier for customers to get started, and then easier for you to provide complete protection over time. So please come to our booth, meet our cloud experts. I'll be there off and on. We have trials going. Tonight I'll be at the talk at 9:30. Make sure I'm not late, Soren. That one will be fun. I'll try to be a little bit controversial, but not so much that I get arrested when I come back into the United States. And I look forward to seeing you. And at this point, I believe there are two lovely ladies who are holding mics for any questions.
They're going out with the microphones. I can also take that off you now. I think we've fixed the signal problem. Do you want to just try saying something?
This is great. I love it.
That's working fine. I'll take that off your hands. Thank you very much.
It's just water?
That is just water. Okay. I mean, if it isn't, I'm going to be very drunk by now. We have just a couple of minutes for maybe one or two questions. So let's have a look out in the crowd. Does anyone have a hand up here? Very straight. Is that so? Yeah, just there in the middle in the grey suit. Someone's just coming to you with the microphone. Please do keep it quite brief, and if you want to state your name and company, go ahead.
Hello.
There we go.
Okay, I'm Jason from Tsukuyoku in Japan. John knows me well. I've been doing backup for over 6 years now, but we do have difficulty in selling backup via our website. We find that many customers just don't search and don't come for it. How do you see the market evolving and making it easier for service providers to sell things as backup or file sharing or things like that online?
Good question. We did a lot of studies in the past, or I've done a lot of studies in the past of how customers buy. And one of the challenges is they don't think, for example, when they go to your website where they've bought either domains, shared hosting, VPSs, right, infrastructure, essentially, that it's the right place to buy backup. They automatically think of other backup companies. So the trick is really to get them to understand that you can become more of a full-service IT provider. Now, the easiest way, but sometimes it's just not a viable way because it's too costly, is to call your customers and make them aware of it. But if you don't have outbound sales, then the trick, I believe, and I don't have all the answers, is really to make it easy for them to try the product for free. Just get them to connect to it, download it, use it, and then once they're hooked on it, to charge them for it. I think we still have a lot of work to do. I'd like backup to just be built into every device, and so that it gets turned on automatically over time. But I think we're a few years away from that. But at this point, we just have to make it as easy as possible, and maybe even think of ways of, while they're installing something else, give them the option to install that agent so that they get going right away. But I'm happy to explore ideas with other people, and we'll share the best practices. Other questions?
And with that, I'm afraid we are out of time.
Out of time.
We are running a little bit late, so I've got to move you on there.
Okay,
Ladies and gentlemen,
thank you.
thank you very much. Please show a round of applause for John Zani.